Good morning again. So, our talk title this morning is What's on Your Spice Rack? Dust, crumbs, sometimes they're spices. Um, our monthly theme for May is Living Everyday Wonder as Emotions. And I have to laugh because if you do any research at all, you will be more confused when you're done than when you started. I'll just tell you. Because there seems to be this plethora of ideas about what emotions are versus what feelings are. And depending on which article you read, they will actually say the opposite of each other. Right? Feeling, if we're talking physical feelings, are very different than feelings that come from our thoughts about whatever we're sensing. And so I think to even navigate this whole realm, we kind of got to go into it with at least a temporary understanding, if you will, an agreement of what the heck are we actually talking about. So, first of all, let's dispense of the physical feeling part because that one's easy, right? I can feel that. If I tug on my ear, I feel that. You know, a month ago when I plowed my forehead through the gravel parking lot, I felt that. There was no confusion about what I was feeling on the physical plane. It's when we get to the non physical plane that we get confused. Psychology today says that the difference is emotion is the raw data that our physiology gives us, and that the feelings are based on what we tell ourselves about that raw data. Okay? Now, I can get next to that. Emotions at the physiological level, they're done. They literally seconds, and they have run their course. Now, how different would our lives be if we just leaned into the physiology of emotions and we recognized that we're having one and we allowed it to run its course and be done? I don't know about you, but I'd have a lot more free time. Because I spend a whole, why am I feeling that? Why did that come up? Oh my God, what does this mean? It means I'm a human being and I had an emotion. Now, sometimes they're not even really related to anything that is happening in my immediate physical environment. We are energy pods, right? Our whole being is energy. And so when energy interacts with energy, you're going to sense that, right? You ever just been sitting there and all of a sudden you feel a shift of energy and you can't really put your finger on anything that just happened, right? It's because we are energy surrounded by energy. And let's go back to this integrity thing. There's no separation in the integrity of energy. And so when we do this, energy everywhere just moved. So might it make sense in the truth of oneness, in the truth of wholeness, that we're all kind of subjected to energy shifts that have nothing to do with our individualized experience, but maybe somebody else's? And something moved in them, so something moved in us. And maybe we can just be with it and go, huh, okay, and move on. See, that little thing right there has saved me a lot of time and stress. Huh, okay. It really, unless it's something that is persistent, perhaps we don't need to glom onto it and dissect it and take it apart because we won't do it accurately. You know that, right? The minute we start dissecting it, we're not dissecting what we actually felt anymore. What we're really doing is infusing it with our projections of what we think it is, or what it should be, or what we're afraid it might be. And we're not dissecting anything. We're rearranging everything to match the expectation of our belief system. Emotions happen. Literally, emotion means to move. Emote is to move. And so things are going to move inside of you. Great. That just means you're alive. But I think sometimes we're so afraid of our feelings, we're so afraid of our emotions that we shut them down and we ignore them and we refuse to be aware that we even have them because we've decided that they're bad, wrong, and negative. I was talking with somebody a while ago. We were talking about the war in Ukraine, and they made the statement that they just can't let themselves grieve any of this stuff. And my question to them was, how can you not grieve it? How can you not let yourself be in grief about what's happening? And long conversation short, the belief that was operating is that grief equals hopelessness. Perhaps that's the incorrect premise that's causing all the problems with stuck emotions. Is that they're bad. I just want to feel happy. Right? How many of us are guilty of that? I just want to feel the good emotions. Right? We all go through that. So I invite you first and foremost, rewrite your shouldapedia about emotions and feelings. That if you weren't supposed to have them, you won't. Right? They're part of our human experience. And they're valuable because they give us information. So if we just go with emotions as raw data doesn't have a position. Raw data is not good or bad, it's just information. And so when your physiology informs you that it's experiencing something, I invite you to simply start with, huh, okay. Acknowledge that you're experiencing it. And then pay attention to what you're telling yourself after that. Most of us, my experience, let me own this. My experience is that most of us wouldn't know a feeling if it bit us in the rear end. Right? Because you ask people, well, what are you feeling? Pay attention. Well, it feels like they blah, 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 blah. That is not a feeling. That is a string of thoughts projected about another human being started with the word feeling. But there's no feelings in that. I feel like they don't like me. That's not a feeling, that's a thought. I think they don't like me. Right? And so when we think somebody doesn't like us, now you're getting to the feeling. What do you feel when you think somebody doesn't like you? Well, depends. Sometimes you feel sad. Sometimes you really don't care and you don't feel anything. Sometimes you might even feel celebration that so and so doesn't like you because you really don't like them either if you're telling the truth. Right? But pay attention to the order of things. I teach this in the creative process: thoughts, feelings, urges, action. Because that's how our feelings work. Our emotions signal us that there's been an energetic shift. It's just raw data. Now, what do we do with it? We have a thought about it. Based on that thought, we will have a feeling. Based on that feeling, we will have an urge to do something. And we will either act on that urge or not. Right? Thoughts, feelings, urges, action. It's really that simple. And if your urge is to cry, cry. If your urge is appropriate to the situation, follow it out. If your urge is to do something that's out of integrity, stop. Backtrack. What's my thought? Because your thought is driving that urge through your feelings. Last night, I stumbled upon the information about Naomi Judd. And I don't even know why it moves me that Naomi Judd is no longer on the planet with us. By everything I've read, it appears as though she chose to leave. But I was very aware that unlike many celebrities who have come and gone, this one I had some emotion about. I had some tears. It's not like I know the woman, because I don't. Right? Now, I can quickly dismiss it, or I can just lean into what's really happening here. What's my body informing me of? And as best I can understand it in this moment, it's a connection that the pain and her depression and her anxiety that she has lived with for most of her life is connected to sexual abuse. And that's a point where, even though we've never met, we share a common ground. And maybe it's that. Or maybe I'm just hungry. I don't know. I don't know. And I don't have to know. But I think, the whole reason for bringing it up, folks, is just to give you an example of you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to. You can simply lean into the experience. Pay attention to what you're telling yourself and move through it, embracing every emotion and every feeling as equally holy, even if they don't feel good. Grief doesn't feel good. Sadness doesn't feel good. It doesn't make it less valuable, and it certainly doesn't make it less appropriate. And so I invite you, as we move through this whole month looking at our emotions, what's on your spice rack? Have you thrown out all of the spices that you've decided are bad? Because they're still there. We can't eliminate them from our human experience. But what we can do is learn to use them to flavor our experience and not make it bad. We can try new flavors. We can try new combinations. You can actually, we do sweet and savory in the same dish. You can actually do sad and happy at the same time. You can do grief and joy at the same time. You can have peace and be in great turmoil all at the same time. Both can go in the same dish if we will allow it. Let's take this into prayer. And so what I know by resonance is that this human form that the divine is expressing as is built perfectly to be exactly what it is here to be. An adventure of the divine to know itself, to fully experience itself, to expand itself as human experience. And yet to be fully spiritual at the same time. And so I know that all of humanity is infused with the perfection and the power and the brilliance of creation. I know that part of that brilliance, part of that power, part of that awe and wonder is the physiology, the biology, and the psychology of emotions and feelings. And so I speak my word, claiming and affirming that within us is infinite guidance, infinite intelligence to know, to lean into, to fully embrace and embody the totality of every emotion we have. That within us is the authority and the willingness and the ability to respond to the thoughts we have about our emotions. That we are empowered to change the narrative anytime we choose. And as we do, we change our experience. That there is so much truth in change our thinking, change our life. That we no longer need to eliminate or ignore or bypass or run away from any element of our experience. And instead, we wrap ourselves in awe and wonder. That we simply lean in with the question, what else is here? What else is here that I'm not seeing? Show me. And as we do, the very infiniteness that created us responds to inform us, always moving us to a greater experience of our wholeness. I cherish every messy moment. And I speak my word that every human is awakening to the preciousness of every messy moment. And as we allow our own messiness, we allow for one another's messiness. And we meet each other in that place of awe and wonder and love and hearts open without restriction. That we see the glory and wonder of one another beyond any words. And we simply be presence with one another. Grateful. Grateful that whatever this magnificent one is knows exactly what it's doing. Grateful that the operation of law can only say yes, and it's already said yes. So I know it is happening. It is being fulfilled in me, just as it is in everyone else. And so I lean into a greater experience with gratitude, awe, and wonder, and expectancy. I invite you into the vulnerability of yes as we say together. And so it is.